Here is the vocal version of the Kazan Declaration, which you can listen to while driving or doing other tasks. Kazan Declaration. Strengthening multilateralism for just global development and security. Kazan, Russian Federation, October 23, 2024. 1. We, the leaders of BRICS countries, met in Kazan, Russian Federation, from 22 to October 24, 2024 for the XVI BRICS Summit held under the theme, Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security. 2. We reiterate the importance of further enhancing BRICS solidarity and cooperation based on our mutual interests and key priorities and further strengthening our strategic partnership. 3. We reaffirm our commitment to the BRICS spirit of mutual respect and understanding, sovereign equality, solidarity, democracy, openness, inclusiveness, collaboration, and consensus. As we build upon 16 years of BRICS summits, we further commit ourselves to strengthening cooperation in the expanded BRICS under the three pillars of political and security, economic and financial, cultural and people-to-people cooperation, and to enhancing our strategic partnership for the benefit of our people through the promotion of peace, a more representative, fairer international order, a reinvigorated and reformed multilateral system, sustainable development, and inclusive growth. 4. We commend the Russian BRICS chairship for hosting an outreach/BRICS Plus dialogue with participation of EMDCs from Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and Middle East under the motto, BRICS and Global South, Building a Better World Together in Kazan on October 24, 2024. 5. We welcome the considerable interest by countries of the Global South in BRICS, and we endorse the modalities of BRICS partner country category. We strongly believe that extending the BRICS partnership with EMDCs will further contribute to strengthening the spirit of solidarity and true international cooperation for the benefit of all. We commit to further promoting BRICS institutional development. Strengthening multilateralism for a more just and democratic world order. 6. We note the emergence of new centers of power, policy decision-making, and economic growth, which can pave the way for a more equitable, just, democratic, and balanced multipolar world order. Multipolarity can expand opportunities for EMDCs to unlock their constructive potential and enjoy universally beneficial, inclusive, and equitable economic globalization and cooperation. Bearing in mind the need to adapt the current architecture of international relations to better reflect the contemporary realities, we reaffirm our commitment to multilateralism and upholding the international law, including the purposes and principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations, UN, as its indispensable cornerstone, and the central role of the UN in the international system in which sovereign states cooperate to maintain international peace and security, advance sustainable development, ensure the promotion and protection of democracy, human rights, and fundamental freedoms for all, as well as cooperation based on solidarity, mutual respect, justice, and equality. We further emphasize the urgent need to achieve equitable and inclusive geographical representation in the staff composition of the Secretariat of the United Nations and other international organizations, in a timely manner. 7. We reiterate our commitment to improving global governance by promoting a more agile, effective, efficient, responsive, representative, legitimate, democratic, and accountable international and multilateral system. We call for assuring greater and more meaningful participation of EMDCs and least developed countries, especially in Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean, in global decision-making processes and structures, and making them better attuned to contemporary realities. We also call for increasing the role and share of women, especially from EMDCs, at different levels of responsibilities in the international organizations. As a positive step in this direction, we acknowledge the G20 call to action on global governance reform launched by Brazil during its G20 presidency. We also acknowledge dialogues and partnerships which strengthen cooperation with the African continent, like Summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, India-Africa Forum Summit, Russia-Africa Summit, and Ministerial Conference. 8. Recognizing the 2023 Johannesburg II Declaration, we reaffirm our support for a comprehensive reform of the United Nations, including its Security Council, with a view to making it more democratic, representative, effective, and efficient, and to increase the representation of developing countries in the Council's memberships so that it can adequately respond to prevailing global challenges and support the legitimate aspirations of emerging and developing countries from Africa, Asia, and Latin America, including BRICS countries, to play a greater role in international affairs, in particular in the United Nations, including its Security Council. We recognize the legitimate aspirations of African countries, reflected in the Erzual-Wayne Consensus and Sirte Declaration. 1 G5 v I90I. 9. We reaffirm our support for the rules-based, open, transparent, fair, predictable, inclusive, equitable, non-discriminatory, consensus-based multilateral trading system with the World Trade Organization, WTO, at its core, with special and differential treatment, SAN-DT, for developing countries, including least developed countries, and reject the unilateral trade restrictive measures that are inconsistent with WTO rules. We welcome the outcomes of the 13th Ministerial Conference in Abu Dhabi, UAE, and reiterate our commitment to work towards the implementation of the decisions and declarations of WTO ministerial conferences. We note, however, there is still a need for further efforts in many outstanding issues. We emphasize the importance of reforming the WTO and strengthening the developmental dimension in its work. We commit to engage constructively within the WTO to attain the goal to deliver a fully and well-functioning two-tier binding WTO dispute settlement system by 2024 accessible to all, and the selection of new appellate body members without further delay. We agree to enhance our dialogue on multilateral trading system and WTO-related issues and welcome the establishment of the BRICS Informal Consultative Framework on WTO issues. We reiterate the decision under the Strategy for BRICS Economic Partnership 2025 to take actions to support the necessary WTO reform to enhance the WTO's resilience, authority, and efficacy, and promote development and inclusivity. 10. We are deeply concerned about the disruptive effect of unlawful unilateral coercive measures, including illegal sanctions, on the world economy, international trade, and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Such measures undermine the UN Charter, the multilateral trading system, the Sustainable Development and environmental agreements. They also negatively impact economic growth, energy, health, and food security, exacerbating poverty and environmental challenges. 11. We reaffirm our commitment to maintaining a strong and effective global financial safety net with a quota-based and adequately resourced IMF at its center. We call for the reform of the Bretton Woods institutions, which includes increased representation of EMDCs and leadership positions to reflect the contribution of EMDCs to the global economy. We support a merit-based, inclusive, and equitable selection process for the top positions at the Bretton Woods institutions, increased geographical representation, and the role and share of women. We note the quota increase at the 16th General Review of Quotas, GRQ, and urge members to secure domestic approvals to make quota increase effective. We welcome the decision to create a 25th chair at the IMF Executive Board to enhance the voice and representation of Sub-Saharan Africa. We acknowledge the urgency and importance of realignment in quota shares to better reflect members' relative positions in the world economy, while protecting the quota shares of the EMDCs, in particular, the poorest members. We welcome the IMF Executive Board's ongoing work to develop by June 2025 possible approaches as a guide for further quota realignment, including through a new quota formula, under the 17th GRQ. The discussion should result in quota realignment that is fair and transparent, enhances the representation of underrepresented IMF members, and transfers quota share from advanced economies to EMDCs. We look forward to the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, 2025 shareholding review. 12. We recognize the crucial role of BRICS in the process of improving the international monetary and financial system, IMFS, with a view to making it more responsive to the needs of all countries. In this regard, we take note of the BRICS Chairship research on the improvement of the IMFS, which outlines core principles of security, independence, inclusion, and sustainability crucial for economic and social prosperity. We encourage our finance ministers and central/national bank governors to continue this work. 13. We stress the universal and inclusive nature of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals, and that implementation should take into account different national circumstances, capacities, and levels of development. whilst respecting national policies and priorities and in conformity with national legislation. We will exert all efforts to achieve sustainable development in its three dimensions and commit to put it at the center of the international cooperation agenda in order to better address imbalances and inadequacies of development. We condemn the attempts to subject development to discriminatory, politically motivated practices, including but not limited to unilateral coercive measures that are incompatible with the principles of the UN Charter, explicit or implied political conditionality of development assistance, activities aiming at compromising the multiplicity of international development assistance providers. 14. We underscore the key role of the G20 as the premier global forum for multilateral economic and financial cooperation that provides a platform for dialogue of both developed and emerging economies, on an equal and mutually beneficial footing for jointly seeking shared solutions to global challenges. We recognize the importance of the continued and productive functioning of the G20 based on consensus with a focus on result-oriented outcomes. We support the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty and the work of the Task Force for a Global Mobilization Against Climate Change, as well as the landmark Rio de Janeiro Declaration on International Tax Cooperation. We look forward to the successful hosting of the G20 Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro in November 2024 under the Brazilian presidency and reaffirm our willingness to coordinate our positions, to enhance inclusiveness and amplify the voice of the Global South and further integrate their priorities in the G20 agenda through the consecutive G20 presidencies of BRICS member states, India, Brazil, and South Africa during 2023 to 2025 and beyond. In this regard, we also welcome and support the inclusion of the African Union as a member of the G20 at the G20 New Delhi Summit in 2023. 15. We reiterate that the objectives, principles, and provisions of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, its Kyoto Protocol, and its Paris Agreement, including its principles of equity and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities, CBDRRC, in the light of different national circumstances, must be honored. We condemn unilateral measures introduced under the pretext of climate and environmental concerns and reiterate our commitment to enhancing coordination on these issues. We will strengthen cooperation on a whole range of solutions and technologies that contribute to the reduction and removal of greenhouse gases, GHGs. We also note the role of carbon sinks in absorbing GHGs and mitigating climate change, whilst also highlighting the importance of adaptation and stressing the need for the adequate provision of the means of implementation, namely financial resources, technology transfer, and capacity building. 16. We recall that the UNFCCC, including the annual Conference of the Parties, COP, sessions, is the primary and legitimate international forum to discuss the issue of climate change in all its dimensions. We are deeply concerned with attempts to link security with the climate change agenda. We commend Egypt for hosting COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in 2022, where the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage was established, and the UAE for hosting COP28 in Dubai in 2023, where the fund was operationalized. We welcome the UAE consensus achieved at COP28, including the decision entitled Outcome of the First Global Stocktake and the UAE Framework for Global Climate Resilience. We express commitment to a successful COP29 in Azerbaijan, with an expectation of strong outcomes on climate finance to developing 6 countries, as a critical enabler for delivering on the current and future nationally determined actions and ambitions in mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damage. We support Brazil's leadership in hosting COP30 in 2025 and welcome India's candidacy to host COP33 in 2028. 17. We reaffirm the importance of biodiversity conservation, including the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We urge developed countries to ensure the provision of adequate, effective, and easily accessible financial resources to developing countries to promote the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. We highlight the importance of improving capacity building, development, and transfer of technology from developed countries to developing countries for the conservation, sustainable use, and fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the use of biodiversity. 18. We recognize that land degradation, desertification, and drought are posing serious threats to the well-being and livelihoods of people and the environment, and, whilst acknowledging the ongoing efforts in promoting sustainable land management practices, we call for the urgent provision of increased financial resources, strong partnerships, and integrated policies to address the challenges of land degradation, desertification, and drought. In this regard, we look forward to the forthcoming 16th session of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD COP16, that will take place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, from 2 to December 13, 2024. 19. In light of global efforts towards tackling global water scarcity challenge, we welcome the UAE and Senegal for co-hosting the 2026 UN Water Conference in the UAE. 20. While appreciating the efforts of our countries to preserve rare species and noting the high vulnerability of big cats, we take note of the Republic of India's initiative to create an international Big Cats Alliance and encourage BRICS countries to work together to make further contributions to the conservation of big cats. We also take note that the UAE established the Mohammed bin Zayed Species Conservation Fund. In that regard, we encourage BRICS countries to improve collective collaboration in areas of conservation and preservation of the most vulnerable species. 21. We reaffirm the need for all countries to cooperate in promoting and protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms under the principles of equality and mutual respect. We agree to continue to treat all human rights, including the right to development, in a fair and equal manner, on the same footing and with the same emphasis. We agree to strengthen cooperation on issues of common interests both within BRICS and in multilateral fora, including the United Nations General Assembly and Human Rights Council, taking into account the necessity to promote, protect, and fulfill human rights in a non-selective, non-politicized, and constructive manner and without double standards. We call for the respect of democracy and human rights. In this regard, we underline that they should be implemented on the level of global governance as well as at national level. We reaffirm our commitment to ensuring the promotion and protection of democracy, human rights, and fundamental freedoms for all with the aim to build a brighter shared future for the international community based on mutually beneficial cooperation. 22. We reiterate that the unilateral coercive measures, inter alia in the form of unilateral economic sanctions and secondary sanctions that are contrary to international law, have far-reaching implications for the human rights, including the right to development, of the general population of targeted states, disproportionately affecting the poor and people in vulnerable situations. Therefore, we call for their elimination. 23. We recall the 2001 Durban Declaration and Program of Action, DDPA, and the outcome document of the 2009 Durban Review Conference and acknowledge the need to intensify the fight against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance, as well as discrimination based on religion, faith, or belief, and all their contemporary forms around the world, including the alarming trends of rising hate speech, and acknowledge the annual UNGA resolution on combating glorification of Nazism, neo-Nazism, and other practices that contribute to fueling contemporary forms of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. Enhancing cooperation for global and regional stability and security. 24. We strongly support enhanced BRICS dialogue on policy and security issues. We welcome the joint statement of the BRICS Ministers of Foreign Affairs and International Relations meeting in Nizhny Novgorod on June 10, 2024, and note the 14th meeting of BRICS National Security Advisors and High Representatives on National Security held on 10 to 11 September 2024 in St. Petersburg. 25. We remain concerned about the rise of violence and continuing armed conflicts in different parts of the world, including those that have significant impact at both regional and international levels. We reiterate our commitment to the peaceful resolution of disputes through diplomacy, mediation, inclusive dialogue, and consultations in a coordinated and cooperative manner, and support all efforts conducive to the peaceful settlement of crises. We stress the need to engage in conflict prevention efforts, including through addressing their root causes. We acknowledge the legitimate and reasonable security concerns of all countries. We call for the protection of cultural heritage, particularly in regions affected by conflict, to prevent the destruction and illicit trafficking of cultural property, which is vital for preserving the history and identity of affected communities. 26. We stress that tolerance and peaceful coexistence are among the most important values and principles for relations between nations and societies. In this regard, we welcome the adoption of Security Council Resolution 2686 and other UN resolutions in this regard which enjoy consensual support of UN member states. 27. We reiterate the need for the full respect of the international humanitarian law in conflict situations and the provision of humanitarian aid in accordance with the basic principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence established in UNGA Resolution 46-182. We call on the international community to seek collective answers to global and regional challenges and security threats, including terrorism. We stress the need to abide by the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. We reiterate that differences and disputes between countries should be resolved peacefully through dialogue and consultation. We also underline the need to respect the legitimate and reasonable security concerns of all countries. We underscore the need for full, equal, and meaningful participation of women in peace processes, including in conflict prevention and resolution, peacekeeping, peacebuilding, post-conflict reconstruction and development, and sustaining peace. 28. We are deeply concerned over continued conflicts and instability in the Middle East and North Africa, MENA, region, noting the joint statement by BRICS Deputy Foreign Ministers and Special Envoys at their meeting of April 25, 2024. 29. We mourn the tragic loss of civilian lives in the recent period and express sympathy with all civilian victims and their families. We call for urgent measures, in accordance with international law, to ensure the protection of lives. 30. We reiterate our grave concern at the deterioration of the situation and humanitarian crisis in the occupied Palestinian territory, in particular, the unprecedented escalation of violence in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank as a result of the Israeli military offensive, which led to mass killing and injury of civilians, forced displacement, and widespread destruction of civilian infrastructure. We stress the urgent need for an immediate, comprehensive, and permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages and detainees from both sides who are being illegally held captive, and the unhindered, sustainable, and at-scale supply of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, and cessation of all aggressive actions. We denounce the Israeli attacks against humanitarian operations, facilities, personnel, and distribution points. For this purpose, we call for the full implementation of Resolutions 2712, 2023, 2720, 2023, 2728, 2024, and 2735, 2024. Of the United Nations Security Council, and in this regard welcome the continuous efforts by the Arab Republic of Egypt, the State of Qatar, other regional and international efforts in order to reach immediate ceasefire, accelerate the delivery of humanitarian aid, and Israel's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. We call for adherence to international law. We are also alarmed that the further escalation of the conflict in the Gaza Strip fuels tension, extremism, and severe negative consequences both regionally and globally. We call on all relevant parties to act with utmost restraint and to avoid escalatory actions and provocative declarations. We acknowledge the provisional measures of the International Court of Justice in the legal proceedings instituted by South Africa against Israel. We reaffirm our support for the State of Palestine's full membership in the United Nations in the context of the unwavering commitment to the vision of the two-state solution, based on international law including relevant UNSC and UNGA resolutions and the Arab Peace Initiative that includes the establishment of a sovereign, independent, and viable State of Palestine in line with internationally recognized borders of June 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital living side by side in peace and security with Israel. 31. We express alarm over the situation in southern Lebanon. We condemn the loss of civilian lives and the immense damage to civilian infrastructure resulting from attacks by Israel in residential areas in Lebanon and call for immediate cessation of military acts. We stress the need to preserve the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the State of Lebanon and to create conditions for political and diplomatic solutions, in order to safeguard peace and stability in the Middle East while underlining the importance of strict observance of UNSC Resolutions 1701, 2006, and 2749, 2024. We strongly condemn attacks on UN personnel, threats to their safety, and call upon Israel to immediately cease such activity. 32. We express our concern over the increasing incidence of terrorist attacks linked with ICT capabilities. In this regard, we condemn the premeditated terrorist act of detonating handheld communication devices in Beirut on September 17, 2024, which resulted in the loss of life and injury of dozens of civilians. We reiterate that these attacks constitute a grave violation of international law. 33. We stress the importance of ensuring the exercise of navigational rights and freedoms of vessels of all states in the Red Sea and Bab al-Mandab Strait, in accordance with international law. We encourage enhanced diplomatic efforts by all parties to that end, including by addressing the causes of the conflict, and continued support for dialogue and Yemen's peace process under UN auspices. 34. We stress that Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity must be strictly observed. We condemn illegal foreign military presence that leads to increasing risks of a large-scale conflict in the region. We emphasize that illegal unilateral sanctions seriously exacerbate the suffering of the Syrian people. 35. We condemn the attack against the diplomatic premises of the Islamic Republic of Iran in the Syrian capital Damascus by Israel on April 1, 2024 that constitutes a violation of the fundamental principle of the inviolability of diplomatic and consular premises under the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and the 1963 Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. 36. We recall national positions concerning the situation in and around Ukraine as expressed in the appropriate fora, including the UNSC and the UNGA. We emphasize that all states should act consistently with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter in their entirety and interrelation. We note with appreciation relevant proposals of mediation and good offices aimed at a peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. 37. We stress the importance of full implementation of the JCPOA endorsed by the UNSCR 2231, 2015. And underscore the importance of a constructive approach based on the good faith by all relevant actors to resume full implementation of the JCPOA commitments by all sides. 38. We reiterate that the principal African solutions to African problems should continue to serve as the basis for conflict resolution on the African continent. In this regard, we recognize the critical role of the African Union in the prevention, management, and resolution of conflicts in Africa. We reaffirm our support for African peace efforts on the continent, including those undertaken by the African Union and African sub-regional organizations in line with the principles of African ownership, complementarity, and subsidiarity. 39. We commend the efforts and achievements by African countries in their pursuit of peace and development, and to combat the growing scourge of terrorism in Africa, particularly in the Horn of Africa and the Sahel, and call for the channeling of more global counterterrorism resources to developing countries to help African countries, particularly those affected, enhance their counterterrorism capacity building. We commend efforts undertaken by African countries, the African Union, African sub-regional organizations, and the United Nations in promoting the peace process in South Sudan, stabilizing the situation in the Central African Republic, as well as the success of the government of Mozambique, supported by the Southern African Development Community, SADC, and counteraction to the terrorist threat in the north of the country. 40. We express grave concern over the escalating violence and humanitarian crisis in Sudan and reiterate our call for an immediate, permanent, and unconditional ceasefire and peaceful resolution of the conflict with engagement in peace talks as the only way to end this conflict, sustained, urgent and unimpeded access of the Sudanese population to humanitarian assistance, and the scaling up of humanitarian assistance to Sudan and neighboring states. We condemn the attack on the residence of the head of mission of 11 the United Arab Emirates Embassy to Sudan on September 29, 2024, causing extensive damage to the premises located in a residential area in Khartoum. We stress the fundamental principle of the inviolability of diplomatic and consular premises, and the obligations on receiving states, including under the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and the 1963 Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. 41. We deplore the brutal gang attack in Pont-Saint, in Haiti, which resulted in the deaths and the forced displacement of civilians, and express deep concern over the ongoing deterioration of the security, humanitarian, and economic situation in Haiti. We commend the establishment of Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council and the creation of an electoral council as essential steps to solve the current crisis. We stress that the current crisis requires a Haitian-led solution that encompasses national and inclusive dialogue and consensus building among local political forces, institutions, and the society, and call on the international community to support the interim government's endeavors to dismantle the gangs, enhance the security situation, and put in place the foundations for long-lasting social and economic development in the country, and hold general elections by the end of 2025. We support the role of the United Nations in providing humanitarian assistance and highlight the need for international cooperation to address Haiti's multifaceted crises effectively. 42. We emphasize the need for an urgent peaceful settlement in Afghanistan in order to strengthen regional security and stability. We advocate for Afghanistan as an independent, united, and peaceful state free from terrorism, war, and drugs. We urge for more visible and verifiable measures in Afghanistan to ensure that the territory of Afghanistan is not used by terrorists. We stress the need to provide urgent and uninterrupted humanitarian assistance to the Afghan people and to safeguard the fundamental rights of all Afghans, including women, girls, and different ethnic groups. We call on Afghanistan authorities to reverse the effective ban on girls' secondary and higher education. We emphasize the primary and effective role of regional platforms and neighboring countries of Afghanistan and welcome the efforts of such regional platforms and initiatives to facilitate the Afghan settlement. 43. We call for the strengthening of nonproliferation and disarmament to safeguard and maintain global stability and international peace and security. We note the paramount importance of the efforts aiming at accelerating the implementation of the resolutions on the establishment of a zone free of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East, including the conference convened pursuant to UN General Assembly Decision 73/546. We call on all invited parties to participate in this conference in good faith and engage with this effort constructively. 44. We also call for the full implementation of the UNSC Resolution 1540, which offers states an important impetus for adopting effective and robust measures at the 12 national level to prevent weapons of mass destruction, their means of delivery, and related materials from getting into the hands of non-state actors, including terrorists, as well as frameworks for cooperation at the international level for this aim. 45. We reassert our support for ensuring the long-term sustainability of outer space activities and prevention of an arms race in outer space, PEROS, and of its weaponization, including through negotiations to adopt a relevant legal multilateral instrument to ensure global security. We recognize the submission of the updated draft treaty on the prevention of the placement of weapons in outer space, the threat or use of force against outer space objects, PPWT, to the Conference on Disarmament in 2014 as an important step towards this goal. We welcome the consensual adoption of the report of the UN Group of Governmental Experts on further practical measures for the prevention of an arms race in outer space on August 16, 2024, which provided substantive elements of a legally binding instrument on PEROS. We stress that practical and non-binding commitments, such as transparency and confidence-building measures, TCBMs, and universally agreed norms, rules, and principles may also contribute to PEROS. 46. Recalling the respective obligations of our states in the field of export controls stemming from relevant internationally recognized legal instruments, we underscore our determination to enhance dialogue and cooperation in this sphere with due account of the necessary balance between nonproliferation and peaceful uses of technology, while ensuring legitimate rights of states to participate in the fullest possible exchange of scientific and technological information, equipment, and materials for peaceful purposes. 47. We reiterate our unequivocal condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations whenever, wherever and by whomsoever committed, while reaffirming that it should not be associated with any religion, nationality, civilization, or ethnic group. We emphasize that terrorism is a common threat, which requires a comprehensive and balanced approach at global and regional levels with due regard to national priorities of states. We commit to enhancing further international and regional cooperation to prevent and counter terrorist threats on the basis of full respect for the sovereignty and security of states and in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations and international law. We acknowledge that states have the primary responsibility in preventing and combating terrorism, with the United Nations continuing to play a central and coordinating role in this area. We recognize that any acts of terrorism are criminal and unjustifiable, regardless of their motivations, and stress the need to ensure a strong collective response to the persistent and emerging terrorist threats without double standards. We reject any attempts at politicization of counterterrorism issues and the use of terrorist groups to achieve political ends. We commit to take decisive measures to prevent and disrupt the spread of terrorist ideology and radicalization, the misuse of modern technologies for terrorist purposes, cross-border movement of terrorists, terrorist financing, and other forms of terrorism support, incitement to commit terrorist acts, as well as recruitment of foreign terrorist fighters. We call for an expeditious finalization and adoption of the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism within the UN framework. We call for concerted actions against all UN-designated terrorists and terrorist entities. 48. We look forward to further strengthening practical counterterrorism cooperation. We welcome the activities of the BRICS Counterterrorism Working Group, CTWG, and its 5 subgroups based upon the BRICS Counterterrorism Strategy and the BRICS Counterterrorism Action Plan, including adoption of the CTWG position paper. 49. We reiterate our commitment to preventing and combating illicit financial flows, money laundering, terrorism financing, drug trafficking, corruption, and the misuse of new technologies, including cryptocurrencies, for illegal and terrorist purposes. We reaffirm our commitment to the principles of technical and non-politicized nature of international anti-criminal cooperation, including for the purpose of preventing and establishing financial traces of these crimes. We note the need to further strengthen such cooperation based on the relevant international legal instruments to which BRICS countries are parties, including relevant UN conventions and resolutions, regional conventions, and treaties. 50. We call for an enhanced dialogue within BRICS on the issues of money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism with the participation of relevant stakeholders. We emphasize the importance of creating conditions for the safe development of the younger generation, reducing the risk of their involvement in illegal activities, and welcome the development of relevant international projects with the participation of young people. 51. We express concern over the situation with illicit drug production, trafficking, and abuse worldwide, recognize that it seriously threatens public security and international and regional stability, health, safety, and well-being of humankind, and as well as undermines the sustainable development of states. We confirm our commitment to the existing international mechanism of drug control based on 3 UN drug control conventions. We acknowledge the importance of enhancing counter-narcotics cooperation and strengthening contacts among BRICS law enforcement authorities, and in this regard welcome the joint statement adopted at the meeting of the BRICS Anti-Drug Working Group in Moscow on May 22, 2024. 52. We consider countering transnational organized crime as one of the key areas for international law enforcement cooperation. We also note that this cooperation shall 14 not be politicized, as it can cause harm to the overall fight against crime. We express particular concern with crimes which affect the environment that need to be addressed. 53. We are resolute to promote BRICS cooperation in the prevention of and fight against corruption and strengthen our coordination on major issues of the international anti-corruption agenda, including United Nations Convention Against Corruption. We are determined to honor our commitment and call for the international community to strengthen cooperation on denial of safe haven to corruption. We welcome the document formulation of the BRICS Common Vision and Joint Action on Enhanced Anti-Corruption Cooperation and Recovery and Return of Assets and Proceeds of Corruption, and attach importance to putting it into practice in accordance with our domestic frameworks. We appreciate the issuance of the analytical note on asset recovery in BRICS countries by the Anti-Corruption Working Group, ACWG, and its efforts to step up collaboration among our practitioners and asset recovery. We also commend the ACWG for updating the document on BRICS cooperation in anti-corruption education, knowledge sharing, and capacity building that benchmarks our collective achievements, including a number of expert initiatives held this year, and traces a way forward in this priority area. 54. We recognize the huge potential of ICTs bridging the digital divides for socio-economic growth and development. We also acknowledge challenges and threats stemming from and within the digital realm. We call for a comprehensive, balanced, objective approach to the development and security of ICT products and systems, as well as for the development and implementation of globally interoperable common rules and standards for supply chain security. We are concerned over the increase in frequency and sophistication of malicious use of ICTs. In this regard, we stress the importance of international cooperation in preventing and countering the use of ICTs for criminal purposes, and therefore look forward to the adoption at the 79th UNGA session the draft UN Convention Against Cybercrime, strengthening international cooperation for combating certain crimes committed by means of information and communications technology systems and for collection, preservation, and the sharing of evidence in electronic form of serious crimes. We also believe that technical assistance, capacity building are foundational for developing resources, skills, policies, and institutions necessary to increasing security of states while enhancing ICT resilience and to accelerate the digital transformation of states, taking into particular consideration the interests and needs of developing states. We underscore the leading role of the United Nations in promoting dialogue to forge common understandings in the security of and in the use of ICTs, including discussions on developing a universal legal framework in this realm and further development and implementation of universally agreed norms, rules, and principles for responsible behavior of states in the use of ICTs. We commend the ongoing work of the UN OEWG on security of and in the use of ICTs 2021 to 2025 as a sole global and inclusive mechanism on this matter, and support the establishment by consensus of a single-track, state-led permanent mechanism under the auspices of the United Nations, reporting to the First Committee of the UNGA, recognizing the importance of the principle of consensus regarding both the establishment of the future mechanism itself as well as the decision-making processes of the mechanism. We are committed to promoting respect for state sovereignty and sovereign equality in the ICT environment and oppose unilateral actions that could undermine international cooperation in this domain, including global supply chain sustainability. 55. We recognize the progress made in promoting BRICS cooperation in accordance with the Roadmap of Practical Cooperation on Ensuring Security in the Use of ICTs and its progress report, including the establishment and further operationalization of the BRICS Points of Contact Directory for pragmatic cooperation among national entities responsible for responding to ICT incidents, as a confidence-building measure. We underscore the importance of establishing frameworks of cooperation among BRICS member states on ensuring security in the use of ICTs. We also acknowledge the need to advance practical intra-BRICS cooperation through the activities of the BRICS Working Group on Security in the Use of ICTs. 56. We express serious concern over exponential spread and proliferation of disinformation, misinformation, including propagating false narratives and fake news, as well as hate speech, especially on digital platforms, fueling radicalization and conflicts. While reaffirming commitment to sovereignty of states, we emphasize the importance of information integrity and ensuring free flow of and public access to accurate fact-based information, including the freedom of opinion and expression as well as digital and media literacy in order to allow for meaningful connectivity in accordance with applicable national and international law. Fostering economic and financial cooperation for just global development. 57. Recalling the 2023 Johannesburg II Declaration, we reiterate our strong belief that multilateral cooperation is essential to limit the risks stemming from geopolitical and geo-economic fragmentation, and commit to intensify efforts in areas of mutual interest, including but not limited to trade, poverty and hunger reduction, sustainable development, including access to energy, water and food, fuel, fertilizers, as well as mitigating and adapting to the impact of climate change. Education, and health, including pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. 58. We emphasize the importance of the full implementation of Addis Ababa Action Agenda adopted at the Third International Conference on Financing for Development in 2015, and the effective participation of developing countries in the Fourth 16 International Conference on Financing for Development, which will be held in Spain from June 30th to July 3rd, 2025. We call on the developed countries to honor their commitment to financing for development and encourage their cooperation with developing countries in different development areas, including taxation, debt, trade, official development assistance, technology transfer, and reforming of international financial architecture. 59. We underscore the need to reform the current international financial architecture to meet the global financial challenges, including global economic governance, to make the international financial architecture more inclusive and just. 60. We note that high debt levels in some countries reduce the fiscal space needed to address ongoing development challenges aggravated by spillover effects from external shocks, particularly from fluctuations in financial and monetary policies in some advanced economies, as well as the inherent problems with the international financial architecture. High interest rates and tighter financing conditions worsen debt vulnerabilities in many countries. We believe it is necessary to address international debt properly and in a holistic manner to support economic recovery and sustainable development, taking into account each nation's laws and internal procedures, accompanied by sustainable external debt and fiscal prudence. We recognize the need to address in an effective, comprehensive, and systematic manner the debt vulnerabilities of both low and middle-income countries. One of the instruments, amongst others, to collectively address debt vulnerabilities is through predictable, orderly, timely, and coordinated implementation of the G20 Common Framework for Debt Treatment with the participation of official bilateral creditors, private creditors, and multilateral development banks, MDBs, in line with the principle of joint action and fair burden sharing. 61. We recognize that the use of blended finance is an effective way to mobilize private capital to finance infrastructure projects. We note the important role of multilateral development banks and development finance institutions, in particular national development banks, in institutionally scaling up the use of blended finance and other instruments, and thereby contributing to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals in accordance with country-specific needs and priorities. To this end, we commend the work of the BRICS Public-Private Partnership and Infrastructure Task Force and endorse its technical report on infrastructure projects' blended finance. 62. We recognize the key role of the New Development Bank, NDB, in promoting infrastructure and sustainable development of its member countries. We support further development of the NDB and improvement in corporate governance and operational effectiveness towards the fulfillment of the NDB's general strategy for 2022 to 2026. We support the NDB in continuously expanding local currency financing and strengthening innovation in investment and financing tools. We encourage the bank to follow member-led and demand-driven principles, the employment of innovative financing mechanisms to mobilize financing from diversified sources, and in this regard, we acknowledge the initiative to create new investment platform to leverage the existing institutional infrastructure of the NDB to boost the investment flow into the countries of BRICS and the Global South mechanisms. We support the enhancement of capacity building and knowledge exchange, including by building synergies with knowledge sources from developing countries, the assistance of member countries in achieving the SDGs, and the further improvement of efficiency and effectiveness to fulfill its mandate, aiming to be a premier multilateral development institution for EMDCs. We agree to jointly develop the New Development Bank into a new type of MDB in the 21st century. We urge the bank to execute its purpose and functions in accordance with the Articles of Agreement of the New Development Bank in a fair and non-discriminatory manner. We support the further expansion of NDB membership and expedited consideration of applications of BRICS countries in line with the NDB general strategy and related policies. 63. We welcome the BRICS Interbank Cooperation Mechanism, ICM, focus on facilitating and expanding innovative financial practices and approaches for projects and programs, including finding acceptable mechanisms of financing in local currencies. We welcome a continued dialogue between the ICM and the NDB. 64. We recognize the important role of BRICS countries working together to deal with risks and challenges to the world economy in achieving global recovery and sustainable development. We reaffirm our commitment to enhance macroeconomic policy coordination, deepen economic cooperation, and work to realize strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive economic recovery. We emphasize the importance of continued implementation of the strategy for BRICS Economic Partnership 2025 in all relevant ministerial tracks and working groups. 65. We reiterate our commitment to enhancing financial cooperation within BRICS. We recognize the widespread benefits of faster, low-cost, more efficient, transparent, safe, and inclusive cross-border payment instruments built upon the principle of minimizing trade barriers and non-discriminatory access. We welcome the use of local currencies in financial transactions between BRICS countries and their trading partners. We encourage strengthening of correspondent banking networks within BRICS and enabling settlements in local currencies in line with BRICS Cross-Border Payments Initiative, BCBPI, which is voluntary and non-binding, and look forward to further discussions in this area, including in the BRICS Payment Task Force. 66. We acknowledge the importance of exploring the feasibility of connecting BRICS countries' financial markets infrastructure. We agree to discuss and study the feasibility of establishment of an independent cross-border settlement and depository infrastructure, BRICS Clear, an initiative to complement the existing financial market infrastructure, as well as BRICS independent reinsurance capacity, including BRICS Re-Insurance Company, with participation on a voluntary basis. 67. We task our finance ministers and central bank governors, as appropriate, to continue consideration of the issue of local currencies, payment instruments, and platforms, and report back to us by the next presidency. 68. We recognize the BRICS Contingent Reserve Arrangement, CRA, being an important mechanism to forestall short-term balance of payments pressures and further strengthen financial stability. We express our strong support for the CRA mechanism improvement via envisaging alternative eligible currencies and welcome finalization of the amendments to the CRA documents. We acknowledge the successful completion of the 7th CRA test run and the 5th edition of the BRICS Economic Bulletin under the title BRICS Economies in a Higher Rate Environment. 69. We acknowledge the outcomes of the first cross-border BRICS Rapid Information Security Channel, BRISC, drills that would further strengthen the BRICS countries' financial sector cyber resilience. 70. We highlight that secure, resilient, stable, effective, and open supply chains are crucial for sustainable development. Acknowledging the role of the BRICS members as the world's largest producers of natural resources, we underscore the importance of strengthening cooperation of the BRICS members across the entire value chain and agree to take joint actions with the aim to oppose unilateral protectionist measures that are inconsistent with the existing WTO provisions. 71. Concerned with the fast-paced digitalization process of all aspects of human life in the 21st century, we underscore the key role of data for development and the need to intensify the engagement within BRICS to address this issue. We highlight that fair, inclusive, and equitable governance of data is critical to enable developing countries to harness the benefits of the digital economy and emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence. We call for the design of a fair and equitable global framework for data governance, including cross-border data flows, to address the principles of collection, storage, use, and transfer of data, ensure the interoperability of data policy frameworks at all levels, and distribute the monetary and non-monetary benefits of data with developing countries. 72. We emphasize that e-commerce has become an important driver of global economic growth, fostering international trade in goods and services, ensuring foreign investment flows, and facilitating innovation. We are resolved to further increase trust in e-commerce and ensure full-fledged protection of the rights of e-commerce parties by intensifying cooperation in the realms of utilizing digital technologies for consumer rights protection, exploring online dispute resolution tools, and creating enabling environment for businesses to enter global markets, exchanging views on the issue of small-value product trade through the cross-border e-commerce. 73. We agree that resilience of supply chains and unimpeded trade in agriculture along with domestic production are crucial for ensuring food security and livelihoods, especially for low-income or resource-poor farmers, as well as for net food importing developing countries. We recognize efforts to support smallholder farmers as an important part of national agriculture system. We welcome the Conference on Food Security and Sustainable Agricultural Development held on 27 to 28 of June 2024 in Moscow, and look forward to the upcoming Global Food Security Summit that will be held in Abu Dhabi on 26 to 28 November 2024. We reaffirm the need to develop a fair agricultural trading system and implement resilient and sustainable agriculture. We commit to minimize disruptions and promote rules-based trade in agriculture and fertilizers with the view to ensure a continuous flow of food and essential inputs for agricultural production, which should be exempted from undue restrictive economic measures inconsistent with WTO rules, including those affecting producers and exporters of agricultural products as well as business services with regard to international shipments. In this regard, we welcome the initiative of the Russian side to establish a grain, commodities, trading platform within BRICS, the BRICS Grain Exchange, and to subsequently develop it, including expanding it to other agricultural sectors. 74. We recognize the effectiveness of Special Economic Zones, SEZs, of the BRICS countries as a well-established mechanism for trade and industrial cooperation and the facilitation of manufacturing, including those, but not limited to high-tech sectors of the economy, IT and IT-enabled services, tourism, port and transport infrastructure, development and commercialization of technologies, as well as for the production of new types of value-added products. We also acknowledge that special economic zones provide immense opportunities for encouraging additional investment in priority areas of economic development. We welcome the establishment of a forum for cooperation on SEZs of the BRICS countries. We agree to carry out practice-oriented activities, including exchanges of best practices on implementation of standards and methodologies for managing SEZs. 75. We acknowledge that the MSME sector is a well-proved lever of economic growth, enabling an increase in overall labor productivity, household incomes, and quality of goods and services. We intend to exchange best practices of supporting MSMEs, including through digital services and platforms aimed at simplifying business operations. We recognize the importance of maintaining existing value chains created with participation of MSMEs, as well as building up new cooperative ties for MSMEs, especially high-tech and innovation-driven ones, within BRICS. 76. We acknowledge that the Partnership for the New Industrial Revolution, PART-NIR, serves as a guiding platform for BRICS cooperation within the framework of the New Industrial Revolution to identify interests, challenges, and opportunities in the rapidly evolving industrial landscape and capacity building in the field of industry, as well as ensures the continuity of BRICS industrial cooperation in a structured framework for sustained collaboration. We appreciate the efforts of the BRICS PART-NIR Innovation Center, BPIC, in organizing events including BRICS Forum on PART-NIR 2024, BRICS Industrial Innovation Contest 2024, BRICS Exhibition on New Industrial Revolution 2024, and the BPIC training programs, and encourage all BRICS countries to actively participate in the above events. We appreciate the efforts of the BRICS Startup Forum in realizing startups projects that play a crucial role in driving innovation and economic growth in the era of new industrial revolution. We look forward to deepening engagements with BRICS countries to participate in future events and activities of the BRICS Startup Forum. We note the agreement to launch the BRICS Center for Industrial Competences in cooperation with United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, to jointly support the development of Industry 4.0 skills development among the BRICS countries and to promote partnerships and increased productivity in the new industrial revolution. We endorse the decision by the PART-NIR Advisory Group to create 7 working groups, including on chemical industry, mining and metals, digital transformation of industry, SMEs, intelligent manufacturing and robotics, photovoltaic industry, medical devices, and pharma. 77. Recognizing the importance of creating an enabling, inclusive, and secure digital economy, and that digital connectivity is an essential prerequisite for digital transformation as well as social and economic growth, we emphasize the need to strengthen cooperation among BRICS countries. We also recognize that emerging technologies such as 5G, satellite systems, terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks have the potential to catalyze the development of the digital economy. We acknowledge that resilient, safe, inclusive, and interoperable digital public infrastructure has the potential to deliver services at scale and increase social and economic opportunities for all. We encourage BRICS members to explore the possibility for joint activities in the field of digital infrastructure to ensure the integrity, stability of the functioning and security of national segments of the Internet while respecting national legislative frameworks regarding any aspects of Internet use, including security ones. We note the need to enhance further intra-BRICS dialogue to unlock the enormous potential of ICTs and encourage policy exchanges and dialogues on artificial intelligence, AI, with a view to establishing an effective global governance framework based on broad consensus to boost national economies as well as to mitigate the risks of malicious use, misinformation, privacy leakage, prejudice, and discrimination arising from such technologies, and to uphold a human-centered, development-oriented, inclusive, and sustainable approach with the aim to improving people's lives and bridging digital divides, especially between developed and developing countries. 78. Recognizing that the rapid technological change, including the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, has the potential to bring new opportunities for socio-economic development around the globe, we encourage more international discussions. We support the United Nations to play an important role in global AI governance and welcome the UN General Assembly Resolution A/RES/78/311 entitled Enhancing International Cooperation on Capacity Building of Artificial Intelligence, which was adopted by consensus. We look forward to BRICS cooperation to help developing countries strengthen AI capacity building. We encourage consultations on AI topic, including through the established BRICS Institute of Future Networks, BIFN, study group on AI. 79. We reiterate our support to the work of the BIFN and encourage all BRICS members to nominate national branches. Recalling the decision of creation of 4 study groups under the BIFN Council and noting the discussion on the draft terms of references. We encourage BRICS members to actively participate in this regard as appropriate. We encourage the study groups to start working and recognize the continuing efforts of the focus group on BRICS platform on digital public good created under the BRICS Working Group on ICTs. 80. While emphasizing the fundamental role of access to energy in achieving SDGs and noting the outlined risks to energy security, we highlight the need for enhanced cooperation among the BRICS countries as major producers and consumers of energy products and services towards fair, inclusive, sustainable, equitable, and just energy transitions. We believe that energy security, access, and energy transitions are important and need to be balanced, taking into consideration full and effective implementation of the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement. We reaffirm our determination to foster free, open, fair, non-discriminatory, transparent, inclusive, and predictable international energy trade and investment environment and agree to deepen technological cooperation. We stress the necessity for resilient global supply chains and stable, predictable energy demand in order to provide universal access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy sources, as well as to ensure national, global, and regional energy security. In this regard, we also strongly condemn all terrorist attacks against critical cross-border energy infrastructure and call for an open and unbiased approach to investigating such incidents. 81. We reiterate the need to take into account national circumstances, including climate and natural conditions, the structure of national economy and energy mix, as well as the specific circumstances of those developing countries whose economies heavily depend on income or consumption of fossil fuels and related energy-intensive products to achieve just energy transitions. We believe that the efficient use of all energy sources is critical for just energy transitions towards more flexible, resilient, and sustainable energy systems, and in this regard we uphold the principle of technological neutrality, i.e. using all available fuels, energy sources, and technologies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which includes, but is not limited to, fossil fuels with abatement and removal technologies, biofuels, natural gas, and LPG, hydrogen and its derivatives. including ammonia, nuclear and renewable power, etc. 82. We call for allocating adequate, predictable, and accessible finance from developed to developing countries for the just energy transitions, in line with the principles of CBDRRC. Stressing that new industrial development models associated with energy transitions would require enormous investments in existing and new infrastructure. 83. We reject unilateral, punitive, and discriminatory protectionist measures that are not in line with international law under the pretext of environmental concerns, such as unilateral and discriminatory carbon border adjustment mechanisms, PBAMs, due diligence requirements, taxes, and other measures, and reconfirm our full support for the call in COP28 related to avoidance of unilateral trade measures based on climate or environment. We also oppose unilateral protectionist measures, which deliberately disrupt the global supply and production chains and distort competition. 84. We welcome the ongoing cooperation under the framework of the BRICS Energy Research Cooperation Platform, including publishing BRICS Just Energy Transition Report, and note with appreciation the 6th BRICS Youth Energy Summit held 27 to 28 September 2024 in Moscow. 85. We recognize the important role of carbon markets as one of the drivers of climate action and encourage enhancing cooperation and sharing experiences in this field. We oppose unilateral measures introduced under the pretext of climate and environmental concerns and reiterate our commitment to enhancing coordination on these issues. We welcome the adoption of the MAO on the BRICS Carbon Markets Partnership as a platform dedicated to sharing knowledge, experiences, and case studies of developing carbon markets and discussing the potential intra-BRICS cooperation on carbon markets to exchange views on potential cooperation under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement among the BRICS countries. 86. We welcome the establishment of the Contact Group on Climate Change and Sustainable Development by BRICS Environment Ministers on June 28, 2024 in Nizhny Novgorod and the adoption of the Framework on Climate Change and Sustainable Development at the High-Level Dialogue on Climate Change, August 30, 2024, Moscow. We look forward to establishing the BRICS Climate Research Platform, BCRP, to enhance the scientific and expert exchange of views, knowledge, and best practices of the grouping. 87. We underscore the critical need for active climate adaptation projects, moving beyond research and forecasting to the implementation of practical solutions, advancing renewable energy, sustainable financing, low-emission technologies, and sustainable development investments, while highlighting the importance of collective action and international cooperation to address the adverse impacts of climate change and ensure inclusive, equitable climate initiatives. 88. Having significant deposits of a wide range of mineral resources, including critical, we commend the outcomes of the first meeting of the heads of geological services of the BRICS countries and acknowledge joint effort to launch the BRICS Geological Platform as the first step of practical collaboration in the field of geology and rational development of mineral resources. 89. Recognizing that environmental problems are posing increasing threat, causing huge damage to the economy and affecting the quality of life of our citizens, we welcome the efforts to further develop the BRICS Clean Rivers Initiative within the framework of the BRICS Environmentally Sound Technology, BEST, platform. We encourage more active involvement of young people in environmental activities, believing it is critical to increase environmental culture and knowledge among the population, primarily young people. 90. Being fully aware of the critical importance of the oceans for sustainable development and climate stability, we recognize that appropriate planning and management, as well as adequate funding, capacity building, and transfer and development of marine technology are essential to ensure the protection of the marine environment and the conservation and sustainable use of marine resources and biodiversity. 91. We support the Kimberley process as the sole global intergovernmental certification scheme, regulating trade in rough diamonds, emphasizing our commitment to preventing conflict diamonds from entering the markets, and acknowledge the launch of the informal BRICS Cooperation Platform, with the participation of African diamond mining nations to ensure free trade in rough diamonds and the sustainable development of the global diamond industry. We welcome the UAE's efforts as chair of the Kimberley process for 2024. We support efforts to increase the turnover of precious metals within BRICS based on common quality standards. 92. acknowledging that developed transport infrastructure, safe, secure, and cost-effective international transport routes, innovative technologies and regulations would facilitate trade flows and cross-border movement of people. We recognize the importance of integrating various modes of transport for an efficient and sustainable transport system in the BRICS countries. We welcome the outcomes of the first BRICS Transport Ministers meeting in St. Petersburg on June 6, 2024, and look forward to further promoting transport dialogue to meet the demand of all stakeholders and to enhance the BRICS countries' transport potential while also respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all member states while carrying out transport cooperation. We also look forward to further exploring opportunities to establish a logistics platform to coordinate and improve transport conditions for multimodal logistics between the BRICS countries. 93. We reiterate our support to the central coordinating role of the World Health Organization in the implementation of multilateral international efforts to protect public health from infectious diseases and epidemics, and commit to reform and strengthen the international pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response system. We recognize the fundamental role of primary health care as a key foundation for universal health care and health systems resilience, as well as on prevention and response to health emergencies. We welcome fostering closer ties among BRICS health institutions responsible for sanitary and epidemiological health and well-being, prevention, preparedness and response to epidemic-prone communicable diseases and health impact following disasters, and encourage further exploring opportunities for knowledge sharing, exchange of expertise, and undertaking joint projects in the health sector. 94. We acknowledge that BRICS cooperation on countering tuberculosis, TB, and antimicrobial resistance, AMR, as well as strengthening capacities in preventing communicable diseases and other health issues such as non-communicable diseases, research and development, experience sharing, including on traditional medicine systems, digital health, nuclear medicine, and radiopharmaceutical science, with a particular emphasis on strengthening the radiopharmaceutical supply chain and enhancing isotopes production, alongside fostering the development of advanced digital solutions, greatly contributes to relevant international efforts. 95. We support the initiatives of the BRICS RAND Vaccine Center, further development of the BRICS Integrated Early Warning System for preventing mass infectious diseases risks, and the operations of the BRICS TB Research Network. We welcome the outcomes of the 79th United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, high-level meeting on AMR, committing to a clear set of targets and actions, including reducing the estimated 4.95 million human deaths associated with bacterial antimicrobial resistance, AMR, annually by 10% by 2030. We express concern about the growing threat of AMR to all sectors of the economy, in particular healthcare, and note the timeliness of holding the first BRICS conference on AMR in May 2024. 96. Recalling significant potential of BRICS countries in the field of nuclear medicine, we welcome the decision to establish a BRICS working group on nuclear medicine. We note the successful holding of the first BRICS Nuclear Medicine Forum on 20 to 21 June 2024 in St. Petersburg and the publication of the BRICS Review of Best Practices in Nuclear Medicine. 97. We welcome the release of the first edition of the BRICS Health Journal and take note of the creation of the BRICS Medical Association. We support the launch of the BRICS Public Health Institutes Network, a platform designed for exchange of experiences and best practices in strengthening and protecting public health. 98. We look forward to enhanced BRICS cooperation, including through established mechanisms in remote sensing satellite applications for the economic and social development of the BRICS countries, including in support of combating climate change, disaster risk reduction, and early warning systems. We encourage enhancing interagency dialogue to further explore cooperation possibilities in the peaceful exploration and use of outer space and, in this regard, welcome the statement of BRICS heads of space agencies. 99. Recognizing that the BRICS countries have a huge tourist potential, we welcome the results of the first BRICS Tourism Forum, held in Moscow on 20 to 21 June 2024. We commit to further strengthening people-to-people connectivity, enhancing multi-stakeholder cooperation, as well as developing joint projects in the tourist sphere. We appreciate the adoption of the roadmap for BRICS tourism cooperation aimed at facilitating tourist exchanges, skills development, promoting sustainable tourism, and digitalizing tourist services. 100. We reaffirm our commitment to further advance and develop cooperation in the field of competition law and policy among BRICS countries with a view to contribute to sustainable development of markets, effective combating anti-competitive cross-border practices, promoting healthy market environment. We acknowledge the role of the BRICS International Competition Law and Policy Center activities and knowledge creation and knowledge sharing amongst BRICS competition authorities and the importance to ensure the most favorable conditions for the competition law development of BRICS economies and work towards the elimination of monopoly barriers in socially important markets. We welcome holding of the 9 BRICS International Competition Conference in 2025 in South Africa. 101. We welcome the continued evolution of cooperation among BRICS countries, including, but not limited to, further discussion on the Mutual Administrative Assistance Agreement, signature of BRICS Authorized Economic Operator Joint Action Plan among the BRICS Customs Administrations towards mutual recognition of their respective Authorized Economic Operator programs. Such cooperation enables the inclusion of new countries and their induction in the established process, capacity building, law enforcement cooperation, and the strengthening of cooperation among BRICS customs training centers to implement joint customs training activities and establishment of BRICS Centers of Excellence and its related online platforms. 102. Recognizing the importance of further enhancing and institutionalizing BRICS tax cooperation, we welcome the adoption of the BRICS Heads of Tax Authorities Governance Framework as an important step towards systematic and consistent tax cooperation among BRICS countries. 103. We welcome the UN General Assembly Resolution 78-230 on promotion of inclusive and effective international tax cooperation at the United Nations. We express our appreciation for the commitment and dedication in developing the terms of reference for a United Nations Framework Convention on International Tax Cooperation, UNFCIC, by the UN Ad Hoc Committee. We recognize the critical importance of developing the UNFCIC with its early protocols to strengthen international tax cooperation and make it fully inclusive and more effective. We expect that the implementation of the UNFCIC will promote an inclusive, fair, transparent, efficient, equitable, and effective international tax system for sustainable development, with a view to enhancing the legitimacy, certainty, resilience, and fairness of international tax rules, while addressing challenges to strengthen domestic resource mobilization. We support initiatives to enhance tax cooperation and build a more progressive, stable, and effective international tax system, promoting tax transparency and facilitating discussions on effective taxation of high net worth individuals. 104. We recognize the role of standardization tools in trade facilitation and agree to strengthen mutually beneficial cooperation in the sphere of standardization. 105. Recognizing the importance of data, statistics, and information for effective decision-making, we express our support to enhance the statistical cooperation within BRICS, including the annual release of the BRICS Joint Statistical Publication and the BRICS Joint Statistical Publication Snapshot, as well as exchange in best practices in the areas of official statistics in the member countries of BRICS. 106. We welcome the cooperation of the BRICS Intellectual Property (IP) offices and exchange of best practices and experience in the IP field, in particular on advanced technological issues aimed at supporting right holders, including MSMEs and talent, and IP protection, commercialization, and utilization. 107. We reiterate the need to further strengthen BRICS cooperation in the field of disaster management. We stress the importance of improving national disaster risk reduction systems and capacities so as to reduce disaster-related damage and protect infrastructure, human lives, and livelihoods. In this regard, we encourage enhancing comprehensive disaster risk reduction capacity of BRICS countries to effectively resist natural disasters, including floods, droughts, earthquakes, forest fires, etc. We support the enhanced dialogue on the development of systems for monitoring of natural hazards, forecasting natural disasters and their possible consequences, including the use of satellite Earth observation, promoting the development of information and early warning systems for natural disasters. 108. we reaffirm our commitment to enhancing BRICS cooperation in labor market development and promoting high-quality and full employment through sustainable economic and social development, inclusive and human-centered labor markets environment. We commit to continue efforts to develop comprehensive strategies for lifelong learning, vocational guidance, continuous professional education, and vocational skills training to ensure workers are equipped with the skills needed for the future of work and a resilient and equitable labor market. We emphasize the importance of regulating platform employment to ensure decent work, fair compensation, and social protection for all. We commit to improving safety and healthy working environment and modernizing social support systems, and to take all relevant measures to reduce occupational injuries and diseases to meet the diverse needs of our populations. 109. We highlight the important role that public sector auditing plays in ensuring efficiency, accountability, effectiveness, and transparency of public administration in BRICS countries and maintaining their financial and economic stability. We welcome increased interaction and sharing of best practices between supreme audit institutions of the BRICS countries. We also pay special attention to the need for improvement of the activities of external public sector audit institutions operating at the regional and local levels within BRICS countries, in accordance with supreme audit institutions' mandates and procedures, as appropriate. 110. We recognize the need of deepening cooperation in the field of justice within the BRICS framework and acknowledge the first meeting of the BRICS Ministers of Justice. We recognize the importance of attracting investment and developing the economies of the BRICS countries and developing a robust framework to address investors' grievances with further consultation and deliberations among BRICS countries. We take note of the Russian initiative to establish the BRICS International Investment Arbitration Center. 111. We acknowledge the enormous potential of the BRICS countries in the sphere of science, technology, and innovation, STI, and the proposed protocol to the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in STI. We commend the work of the BRICS STI Steering Committee being one of the crucial mechanisms to manage and ensure the successful holding of BRICS STI activities. We welcome the establishment of the BRICS Working Group focusing on social sciences and humanities research and adaptation of the Terms of Reference, TOR, of the BRICS STI Framework Program to appropriately navigate the further management of joint calls for proposals to support research work, including early launch of the BRICS STI flagship projects. Recognizing the important role of scientometric systems and databases in modern scientific world and considering the research potential of BRICS countries, we encourage initiatives aimed at exploring scientometric systems and databases in the BRICS countries. 112. We further underscore the importance of science, technology, and innovation as a critical catalyst for economic development and improved quality of life of the people in the BRICS nations. We also note the progress made in advancing research, development, and innovation programs in critical cross-cutting sectors, including biomedical fields, renewable energy, space and astronomical sciences, ocean and polar sciences, through joint research and innovation projects and promotion of joint institutional exchanges. We commend the STI sector for establishing the STI Framework Program for possible funding of joint collaborative research and innovation as priority scientific areas. We encourage BRICS member countries to explore the possibility of allocating funding for research and development, especially for supporting innovation initiatives for startups and MSMEs, while aligning with their national priorities and strategies. We encourage the establishment of incubation and startup centers to promote innovation and technology within the BRICS STI Framework Program. 113. We note with appreciation measures taken by BRICS countries to establish frameworks for building capacities in STI policy development, platforms for technology foresight studies, and supporting the capacities of young scientists and innovators. We encourage all BRICS member countries to explore ways to enhance investment in research infrastructures to advance scientific capabilities and competitiveness. 114. We welcome the enlargement of the BRICS Network University as well as expansion of its research areas including mathematics, natural sciences, social and humanitarian sciences, sustainable agriculture and food security, health sciences. We agree to explore opportunities of cooperation between the BRICS member states to promote the development of the framework for mutual recognition of qualifications. We support continued dialogue on quality evaluation systems for BRICS universities in line with their national education systems. 115. We reaffirm our commitment to enhancing BRICS technical and vocational education and training (TVET) cooperation and appreciate the pivotal role of the BRICS TVET Cooperation Alliance as a multilateral platform for dialogue, experience sharing, and project collaboration. We look forward to further discussions on qualitative and quantitative assessment of technical and vocational education and training systems through joint research projects. We support the establishment of the BRICS Digital Education Cooperation Mechanism as an outcome of the consultative process agreed by the BRICS Ministers of Education in the 2023 Skukuza Declaration and 2024 Kazan Declaration. 116. We appreciate the initiative to establish on August 18 BRICS Geographers' Day as an annual professional holiday aimed at fostering joint research in geographical and geospatial sciences within BRICS, to enhance capacities in addressing sustainable development challenges. 117. We welcome the hosting of the Global Education Meeting on November 1, 2024 in Fortaleza, Brazil, dedicated to SDG 4 and spearheaded by UNESCO, which for the first time will be held in a country of the Global South. 118. Recognizing that development of high-technology products based on domestic technological capacity is a factor predetermining competitiveness of national economies contributing to sustainable and inclusive economic growth, we encourage technological cooperation among BRICS countries. We acknowledge the Chairship's initiative on the BRICS New Technological Platform under the umbrella of the BRICS Business Council, aimed at promoting technology and innovation cooperation between BRICS countries. We note the results of the BRICS Solutions Award 2024 that distinguished the best technological practices and priority areas of innovative development in the BRICS countries. Strengthening people-to-people exchanges for social and economic development. 119. We reaffirm the importance of BRICS people-to-people exchanges in enhancing mutual understanding, friendship, and cooperation. We appreciate events held under Russia's chairship in 2024, including in the fields of media, culture, education, sports, arts, youth, civil society, public diplomacy, and academic exchanges, and acknowledge that people-to-people exchanges play an essential role in enriching our societies and developing our economies. In this regard, we call for more efforts to respect diversity of cultures, highly value inheritance, innovation, and creativity, jointly advocate robust international people-to-people exchanges and cooperation, and recognize the adoption 30 of the UNGA Resolution A/RES/78/286 entitled International Day for Dialogue Among Civilizations. 120. We stress our commitment to enhancing international cooperation in education, science, culture, communication, and information in view of the complexity of contemporary challenges and transformations, and in this regard note the relevance of the principles set forth in the UNESCO Constitution, and its mandate to foster cooperation and peace through international collaboration that should be based on equality, dialogue, mandated programmatic activities, and the spirit of consensus. We recall the UNESCO Framework for Culture and Arts Education that was unanimously adopted in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates in February 2024. 121. We underscore the vital role of culture in sustainable development as it largely benefits economic growth, social cohesion, and overall well-being. In this context, we reaffirm the importance of strengthening BRICS cooperation in the fields of culture and preservation cultural heritage. We welcome the BRICS Culture Festival that highlights the diversity and richness of the BRICS cultures and serves as a catalyst for fostering greater mutual understanding among our nations. We also welcome the BRICS Film Festival and music concerts. We encourage participation in BRICS alliances, including the Alliance of Museums, the Alliance of Museums and Art Galleries, the Alliance of Libraries, and the Alliance of Theaters for Children and Young People. We welcome the establishment of the BRICS Alliance of Folk Dance and encourage the establishment of a BRICS Film Schools Alliance. 122. We regard these alliances as ideal in supporting cultural exchange, knowledge sharing, and the preservation of our shared heritage. Through these initiatives, we aim to deepen cultural ties, enhance mutual appreciation, and contribute to a more interconnected world. We underscore the importance for the BRICS cooperation in the fields of preserving cultural heritage and culture. Recalling the UNESCO World Conference on Cultural Policies and Sustainable Development and the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration 2023, we recognize the power of culture as catalyst for sustainable development, including creativity, innovation, and inclusive economic growth, social cohesion, and environmental protection. 123. We emphasize that all BRICS countries have rich traditional sport culture and agree to support each other in the promotion of traditional and indigenous sports among BRICS countries and around the world. We strongly oppose any form of discrimination on grounds of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, economic, or other status of athletes. We recognize the importance of joint BRICS sports events, meetings, conferences, seminars in the field of sports science and sports medicine. 124. We attach great importance to the role of BRICS in developing sports ties among BRICS countries, including mass, youth, school, and student sports, high-priority 31 sports, parasport, national and traditional sports. In this regard, we highly appreciate Russia's chairship for hosting the BRICS Games in Kazan in June, which brought together participants in 27 sports disciplines. 125. We reiterate the need to further develop youth exchanges, including in such areas as education, training, skills development, science, technology, innovation, entrepreneurship, healthy lifestyle, and sports, as well as community service and volunteering. We positively assess the results of the BRICS Youth Summit, held in Ulyanovsk in July 2024, and recognize its value as a platform for open discussion and constructive interaction between the young people of BRICS countries. We intend to promote further the BRICS Youth Council, which serves as a mechanism for the development and consolidation of the youth agenda within the alliance. We agree to explore the possibility to organize educational missions to the BRICS countries to raise awareness of young people about the values and principles of BRICS. 126. We commit to further promoting interparliamentary interaction between BRICS member states through regular exchange of views, experiences, and best practices in line with the Memorandum on the BRICS Parliamentary Forum signed on September 28, 2023 in Johannesburg and its protocol signed on July 12, 2024. In this regard, we welcome successful holding of the ex-BRICS Parliamentary Forum in St. Petersburg on 11 to 12 July 2024. 127. We acknowledge that dialogue among political parties of BRICS countries plays a constructive role in building consensus and enhancing cooperation. We note the successful hosting of BRICS political parties dialogue in Vladivostok in June 2024 and welcome other BRICS countries to continue the tradition of holding this event in the future. 128. We commend the progress made by BRICS countries in promoting affordable housing and urban development and resilience and appreciate the contribution of mechanisms including the BRICS Urbanization Forum, BRICS Friendship Cities and Local Governments Cooperation Forum, and BRICS Municipal Forum to facilitating the building of more friendship city relations among BRICS countries and promoting the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. 129. We commend the successful holding of the BRICS Business Forum. We welcome the BRICS Business Council's self-reflection with a focus on milestones achieved and areas of improvement. We support BRICS Business Council activities in different domains, including agriculture, finance and investment, infrastructure, transport and logistics, digital economy, energy manufacturing, and sustainable development. 130. We acknowledge the critical role of women in political, social, and economic development. We underline the importance of women's empowerment and their full participation on the basis of equality in all spheres of society, including their active participation in decision-making processes, including in senior positions, which are fundamental for the achievement of equality, development, and peace. We recognize that inclusive entrepreneurship and access to finance for women would facilitate their participation in business ventures, innovation, and the digital economy. In this regard, we welcome the outcomes of the Ministerial Meeting on Women's Affairs and BRICS Women's Forum held in September in St. Petersburg under the theme Women, Governance and Leadership, and recognize the valuable contribution of these annual meetings to the development and consolidation of women empowerment across all three pillars of BRICS cooperation. 131. We appreciate the efforts of the BRICS Women's Business Alliance to promote women's entrepreneurship, including the launch of the Common BRICS Women's Business Alliance digital platform, the holding of the first BRICS Women's Entrepreneurship Forum in Moscow on 3 to 4 June 2024, and the first BRICS Women's Startups Contest. We support further strengthening cooperation between the BRICS Women's Business Alliance and women entrepreneurs from the Global South, including the establishment of regional offices as appropriate. 132. We encourage strengthening ties between experts communities and civil society of BRICS countries. In this regard, we welcome the successful holding of the BRICS Academic Forum and BRICS Civil Forum, activities of the BRICS Think Tank Council enhancing cooperation in research and capacity building among the academic communities of BRICS countries, and the launching of the BRICS Think Tank Network for Finance that will support the discussions of the BRICS Financial Track. We endorse the establishment of the Civil BRICS Council. 133. We commend Russia's BRICS chairship in 2024 and express our gratitude to the government and people of the Russian Federation for holding the XVI BRICS Summit in the city of Kazan. 134. We extend full support to Brazil for its BRICS chairship in 2025 and the holding of the 17 BRICS Summit in Brazil. We hope you have found this useful. Please support our channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing.